Hey O-Scalers, this is Ron, and welcome to episode 6 of how to build an outdoor O-scale layout. In this episode, I'll show you the beginning phases of loop number 2. Loop number 2 is going to be an over and under loop, which is going to begin off of a transition track from loop number 1. Loop number 2 is going to transition and go over the water feature in front of the waterfall, and then turn and go behind the waterfall and begin its descent down to ground level, where it will follow the perimeter of the water feature at ground level. Once it gets behind the waterfall once again, it will begin its climb back up to grade level and tie back into the elevated portion of loop number 1. There'll also be a fly switch to tie back into loop number 2 for continuous operation of loop number 2. Loop number 2 and loop number 1 will be isolated from each other to allow for ambiance operations, or they'll be able to be tied together there for operational runs. Another thing I'll show you today is the electrification of one of the automatic switches. I plan to have about 4 automatic switches on the layout to transition between loops number 1 and loop number 2. In my experience, I have found that the automatic switches can be problematic with some of the elements that they are exposed to outside. So most of my switches for sidings and maybe some industries will all have manual throw switches. The manual throw switches which I'm going to be using are from Caboose Industries, and I'll show you how I installed those, and I'll talk a little bit about that later in the video. So sit back and enjoy, and I'll see you after the show.
I drilled the stanchions about 6 to 8 inches deep. I built the ladder lines to the correct curvature design. Then I removed the track and installed the road bed. Time to secure the ladder line to the stanchions. I paint the ladder line in sections. Here I'm building the ladder line for the upper loop section. I lay the ladder line down to mark the stanchion locations. Tying in loop 2 into the temporary bridge. A truss bridge will be installed over the water feature later. Time to install the track and add another track terminal lead. Pulling the track wires up to loop 2. tying in the auto switch return wires, which go to the SC2 switch controller at the command control box. I am installing a new Atlas switch machine, Atlas item number 6099. I installed 4 return leads and labeled them 1 through 4. Using a Cat5 connector, I created a patch cord to the SC2 switch controller. On the legacy remote, I assigned this switch to position 2. For the manual throw switches, I'm using Caboose Industries item number 208 with the sprung ground throws.
Hey O-Scalers, welcome back. So in episode 6 I showed you a little bit about the beginning constructions of loop number 2, going over the water feature and beginning its descend around the back of the waterfall, which it will descend down and get down to ground level and loop around itself and go back up and again tie into loop number 1. The rest of that construction will happen in episode 7. Also showed you my installation of the Atlas switch machines and how I set that up for electronic operation with the legacy remote, and how I tie it in with the Cat5 cable there into the command control box. Also showed you my installation of my manual switches with the Caboose Industries component. That makes it a lot easier to have a positive switch mechanism there on the manual switches. So for the next episode, we're going to continue on with the building of loop number 2 and tie that into loop number 1, and also show you a little bit about rebuilding the temporary bridge that I have across the waterfall right now. That is going to be rebuilding the truss bridge. So I'll show you an episode on that. I'm not sure if that'll be on episode 7 or we might push that off to episode 8. I've actually used up all of my existing ladder line for that was on my original layout. So in episode 7 here, I'll show you a little bit on how I actually prepare my ladder line from raw materials. So stick around for that. And if you're willing to or looking into building your own ladder line system, I'll show you how easy it is to cut and how to set up. I'll make a little jig, show you how to make a jig to get the spacing correct on the ladder line. So stay tuned for that. Again, comments are welcome. Thank you very much for watching. You can pass this video along, share it with your friends, and hopefully you're learning something, and as I am. And thank you for all your comments, and we'll look for you at episode 7. Thanks for watching.